The Team Never Quit podcast is brought to you by Navy Federal Credit Union. Navy Federal creates tools to help you earn and save more. Go check out how they can help you at NavyFederal.org. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Team Never Quit podcast. As always, thank you guys for listening and watching, and please go hit that like and subscribe button wherever you get your show. So today we are very excited to introduce our guest to you today, but before that, let's kick it off with our Patreon question of the day, which is, what is the most recent thing that's happened to you that made you say, man, I'm getting old?
Mine was yesterday. Marcus and I did Pilates.
You don't have to tell the world that I do that.
It was, but the best part about it is you're better at it than I am.
All right, whatever. No, I'm not.
So mine was definitely looking over and seeing how flexible Marcus is and strong, and how the instructor was complimenting him the whole time, and I was really suffering through it.
I guess you can't. You're not in this question, are you, Hunter?
Hey, I've got something to...
All right, what does it feel like? Yeah, give me one of yours.
For a 25-year-old.
Whenever people don't ID me anymore, that's what gets me.
Oh, well, get over it. That's a sad story. What about you, Scotty? What do you got?
You know, I would say it's a toss-up between going to the optometrist yesterday and like him just walking in and kind of just staring at me before he says anything.
Trying to figure out
Yeah. And then having a conversation with my three boys about Star Wars and them just decimating the first three Star Wars movies as like a total joke in terms of like the actual graphics and the special effects, and like they literally are just sitting there laughing, and I'm like, man,
really? Because I thought that I had that same conversation a few weeks back with somebody, and I thought they were spectacular.
Same, and that's why I guess I'm getting old.
We're out of date, aren't we? I tell you what, man, I was leaning over the other day to get some water out of my ear, and I was looking in the mirror, and I had this slack in my face. It was kind of leaning down. I never noticed before, and I stood back up, and it went away, and then I leaned back over again. I got this slack in my cheek, and the first thing I was like, needed some damn sugar water or something, like from freaking Men in Black. You know what I'm talking about? I had never seen that before. And that was new to me. There's been a few that come with the age. They creep up on you, man.
Yeah, I think that one's contagious because I got that one.
You got that? So normally I scope the beard, and that's the best part about being a guy. You got a good one too, man. So like we get those on board. They hide. Yeah, you're welcome. They can and make us look mean, you know, so the little kids don't mess with us or anything like that. But my wife makes me keep it shaved now. But yeah, that was mine. I had freaking slack.
You look so mean with the beard.
I know. That's why you won't let me have it. All right, man. Thanks again for doing this, brother, for coming out here. Every time we get one of our own on here, I'm actually the bastard son of the Green Berets. I got an actual Green Beret on here today, man. People just, they eat that stuff up. I mean, our generation and what we went through and how we integrated and fought in both wars and everywhere else, that's a lot of things people don't know. They only know about the wars. They don't know about all that other stuff we had to get into. But, yeah, man.
Yeah, Marcus was 18 Delta, so he was with y'all training for that.
We'll talk a little bit about that, man.
Yeah.
But, thanks again for Scott Mann for coming in here and doing this. Let's get started with this, brother. First, backstory. Where'd you come from?
Yeah, so, well, I grew up in a little town in Arkansas. A little login town, and
I got people from there, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I
love that state, man. I think it's just some of the coolest people on the planet, and I'm very proud of that little town of Mount Ida where I grew up. But I met a Green Beret when I was 14 years old. His name was Mark, and he was home on leave. And I sat down with this guy at our soda shop, and he was telling me all about special forces and what they did, and I was just hooked at 14. And I knew right then. And it was mainly like just how this guy carried himself and how he operated and the way he talked to me like I was an adult. He talked to me as if I were going to selection tomorrow. And I'd never had anybody talk. I mean, it was a run.
I remember that's a real thing. That happens, the way they get you, especially at 14,
Absolutely.
man.
Absolutely. To the point that today, Marcus, if a young person comes up to me and says, "Can you tell me, do you have any advice on, what I might do to go into the SEALs or be a PJ or an SF guy?" Like I stopped everything and talked to them because it had such a profound impact on my life. But anyway, this dude, he just sold me on special forces at 14. And I just obsessed about it until I was able to go in and try out. And I spent the first, got in 96. I spent the first half of my career working in Central and South America during the 90s.
I was going to say, man, this is back in the 1900s. So what I know he's the guy that pinched you, man, but we didn't have we had a few, you guys had Rambo, first of all, and Commando. Man, y'all had some good ones, man.
For sure. And don't forget, there was there was the Ballad of the Green Berets.
Oh, yes. Oh, you're going old school. That's right, man. Well, you guys did have that, right?
My dad played that song all the time. And then there was also, I don't know if you ever saw it, there's a really cool National Geographic. My dad had like all these old National Geographics, and the one from 1965, man, when these old school A teams had overthrown a Montagnard uprising. And the team leader had actually, as a way to prevent the uprising, had gone out and taken the Vietnamese Special Forces dude and the Montagnard dude. They'd put on loincloths, drank rice wine, and did a friendship ceremony to put down the riot. And I was like, man. Wow, that has to be the coolest thing I've ever seen. And just that approach, that indigenous approach to me was really what pinned me to the mat, man.
That's awesome.
I remember that grabbing me too. Asking about what even the job really. I was like, hey man, how do you become one of those? They're just kind of telling me about the kick in the pants it was to do it, and that captured me. I was like, I thought that was the coolest thing ever.
What drew you in?
Man, Navy SEALs got the movie. Charlie Sheen, he got me, man.
Yeah, they did a good job with that.
They did a good job, yeah. They did a good job. So. And then the documentary, The Silent Option we had, when the first scene is them coming around that helicopter, and that dude's voice.
Yeah.
That frontline narrator.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? That guy's voice, when he starts narrating that, and there's that one scene where that SEAL's talking about the M60. He's like, in the movies, you see it fired from the hip. That's actually not right. This weapon can be accurately deployed from the shoulder and fire rounds into the thousands while the enemy keeps dying. It just kept going on about it. And I was like, that's exactly what I need to do.
What about your brother?
Same. He's the one, he saw it first. It's his idea. Yeah, he's like, hey, you got to see this, man. And I was like, okay, let me see it, man. And he's like, this is what we're doing. He got so fired up about it. You know how it is. Once one thing grabs you and then you keep going in, you're like, what else you got?
Yeah, my little brother followed me in. It's so funny how that works.
So when that happened with Marcus and Morgan at 14, they immediately started training physically. Did you do that too?
Same thing. And you know what was funny was I was so scrawny and I mean an ultimate runt. And
right.
You know what my nickname in my town was Rambo, because it was such the opposite of, but I was carrying a rucksack around town in that little town of 1,000.
Yeah, everyone knows you were doing it. Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah, they'd honk your horns.
Sure.
I mean, it was kind of a joke.
Joke,
really.
Right? Yeah.
But yeah, I was training hard by the time I was 16, 17 years old, and fully obsessed with it.
So when you graduated, did you immediately sign up?
No, I went into I wanted to be a team leader, because that's what Mark was, and I wanted to. And he told me, he said, if you can, SF needs good officers that take care of their guys. Yeah. And I wanted to be a team leader. So I went ROTC at Central Arkansas, did like 5 years in the 193rd down in Panama, and then went and tried out. And so I had to wait, 5 years or so.
Because they weren't letting y'all in right out of it. You couldn't go into SF as a brand new person in the Army. They're called SF babies now. That came online while I was in there.
Right. They had the SF baby program. I think it came on after I got in. And then they had it again also in the 80s. They did the SF baby program.
I didn't know that.
A lot of my team sergeants and senior non-coms were actually SF babies from the 80s.
Yeah, I remember when I was going through the program, they were so pissed off. Like, who are these SF babies? They get all this damn money to come in. We didn't get any money. I mean, you know how the guys are, right? They thought that they had been in there for 20 freaking years already, and we'd only been in 3. And they were upset about some stuff, right? Things are changing, and we're still in the pipeline. It's funny. I had so much fun with the Green Berets, man. I almost didn't make it out of there.
So what year was that you got in?
I went to selection in 95 and I graduated the Q course in 96. And like just days after the Q course graduation, I was down in, there was a border skirmish between Peru and Ecuador that no one ever heard about. Right. And I ended up being in a border safe house down in Peru and Ecuador, basically being an observer to try to keep those guys from slugging it out, speaking Spanish nonstop. And my Spanish was like a 1-1 rating. I could basically order a taco and go to the bathroom.
Yeah, bathroom. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And here I was living in this outpost with 50 soldados and 2 commanders from opposite nations who hated each other, trying to keep them apart. And I mean, right out of the gate, I was deployed, and I loved it. I loved every second of it. Didn't matter what the mission was. It was just the coolest work in the world because the NCOs were so damn cool.
Yeah, so let's just talk about what a Green Beret is. Mm-hmm. Let's back that up, man. There's a separation between all of us. That's for a reason. We do things we're so similar, but we're different.
Yeah. No, I mean, and that's what I try to tell people all the time is like, they'll say, who's the best? And I'm like, you can't even have that conversation because every single special operations unit has they're a charter, right?
A charter,
they do better than anybody else. And Green Berets are their specialty and has been really since the OSS and World War II has been to work by, with, and through indigenous people and help them stand up on their own. I tell young people when they're trying to like sort out the different things, I try to use avatars or characters they might understand. I'm like, okay, to be a modern day Green Beret, you need to be a cross of like John Wick, Lawrence of Arabia, and the Verizon guy, or the Sprint guy, whatever it is. In other words, you got to be a relationship-based connector. You have to have that surgical lethality, but that is not what you lead with. What you lead with are old school interpersonal skills to build relationships and social capital, and go in with 12 and come out with 12,000.
Yeah. Think of the best dudes you had in high school. If you walked into the party and they were the ones having a good time and they got along with everybody, could calm people down when there was a fight fixing to break out, start a fight if they needed to start a fight somewhere between 2 people. Usually just say overall, everyone knew who they were, or they could go into any kind of realm, whether it was the athletes, the nerds, the freaking people who hated people, all that. That's what they do. So if you had the best guys around in an ideal world, that's what they do. And they don't ever talk about that anymore.
How do you describe the SEALs to people that like have one vision of them that maybe isn't correct? Like how do you describe the SEALs?
So the most important thing with our acronym is the S on the end, the specialist. So from sea, air, and land, imagine you got a fraternity. Take one guy from each walk of life, every one of our guys, and put them in one fraternity. And trap them at from 18 to 24 years old. That's what happens to us when we get in there, right? And the difference between us is the water. I was like, we like to play in the water. I was like, and the same thing with the Green Berets and the SEALs. I was like, we can do the mission that everyone else does, but then we get to write it up in a cool way. Like, we'll as soon as he started laughing, I know he knows exactly what I'm talking about. I was like, hey, man, and that's the best part. I mean, it's almost as if they set up that gauntlet for us to go through so they could spot us, right? Isolate us out. Because when you put us together, we're going to do it. We're going to get it done anyways. I mean, we just make it into something. Yeah. We'll turn something or nothing into something.
Yeah. And I've always wanted to tell you this, man. We've never met. You and I have never met in person, but I was in southern Afghanistan when you were in the East, and when that mission went down. And I just want you to know that every Green Beret in southern Afghanistan was breaking down and praying for you guys every second of the day, man.
I appreciate
you to know that.
I know that every person in country tried to get there. Mm-hmm. I know you tried to get there. I appreciate it. I know you have been cussing me to get me out of there. I know that. I even said that to the guys when they got me. I was like, you can say it out loud. I know you were cussing me because I'd have talked more crap about you trying to get in here and get you out of here just because I'm a Green Beret bastard. I mean, I'm half of me is trained with the Army, man. So I had the best when they got in there, and I still talk to them. Mm-hmm. I'm still with them.
What's up, guys? Let's dive into the financial success with Navy Federal Credit Union. They're on a mission to turn your financial dreams into reality with their membership plus mortgage campaign. As a member-owned, not-for-profit company, Navy Federal offers low fees, fantastic rates, and a 24/7 award-winning customer service. Members enjoy big savings, including an average credit card APR of 6% lower than the industry average. You can discover more at www.navyfederal.org/offers. And now, let's talk home ownership. Navy Federal helps military members, the DoD, veterans, and their families tackle it head-on with their no refi rate drop option. You can buy a home now and lower your rate if rates drop later, with no refinancing needed. They also offer 0 down payment mortgages with a very...
I mean, I wouldn't get rid of y'all if y'all tried, man. Yeah, bro.
Well, you know, the cool thing too was when, for most of, I don't know about your experience, but in the post 9/11 world, so, you know, after 9/11, working in primarily in Afghanistan, the interoperability at the tactical level between SEALs and SF dudes and PJs and TAC-Ps, and I mean, I'm probably throwing a bunch of acronyms around, but I was kind of in awe of it, man. I mean, by the end of by midway through the war, we got really good.
Can you believe that?
At being interoperable and working together. And I just think it was probably the best we've ever
most
been.
Fun. That probably won't ever happen again. They won't let us do that again. I was talking about this yesterday, bro, to a guy. I was like, about 3 to 4, was it 3 months in, 4 months in, we got to do the damn evals. They make us break down. Like, all right, you guys got to do some military paperwork. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. So I'm sitting there trying to write out this guy's evaluation, write him up for some stuff. I was like, hey, man, what's your rank? I don't even know what your rate is. What do you do? And he goes, well, I'm in the Air Force. I'm in this. I was like, you're not even a damn SEAL? I was like, I thought you were a Navy SEAL, man. Because we don't wear tags or tabs or anything out there. It looks like a freaking gypsy camp. And I mean, it makes sense, though, because if you really, when we started thinking about it, you break it down, like the guys I started really getting along with and laughing out loud about, they weren't in the same family as me. They were a different family. And we didn't even know it.
Yeah.
That was cool, man.
So how long were you in?
I was in almost 23 years, and about 18 of that was in Special Forces.
Wow.
That's a great run, brother.
It was a good ride.
That's a huge
It was a good ride. I loved every second. And I retired in 2013 just because I didn't like the way things were going in Afghanistan, and frankly, I felt like the leadership at the senior levels was so careerist and zero defect. I just didn't want to be a part of it anymore. But I loved the regiment, and I loved the missions, and I loved the men. It was better than I dreamed it would be, and that's a hell of a thing to be able to say. When you're 55.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It gets harder for me now. People are, hey, you miss it? And when I first got, I was like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah.
And then now, like, I can taste it. Like,
I miss the dudes.
The dudes. The stories. If you hate Mondays, you can get into SF. Because whatever happened over the weekend, when they come into the team room, you're like, just let me hear it. I just want to know what you got into. It's amazing what they'll get into. And And there's the barrage of guys from the 18 to our senior guys, which you think an old man is 30-something years old. You think they're about to die. They're so old when they're 30.
Yeah.
If you're unsure about what you want to do when you get out of high school or you want to go to college, you're like, man, join the military. Join the military.
100%.
So is there
100%.
any pinnacle moment in your 23 years that you still think about today that like changed the course of your life?
I would say the pinnacle moment for me, actually, there were a lot of pivotal moments, but the pinnacle moment for me came as I look back on my life, actually just a couple of years ago during the Afghanistan collapse, after I had already retired and been out for almost 10 years. I was I'm a professional storyteller, and I basically what I do is I teach the interpersonal skills that Green Berets specialize in. I teach that in corporate America, and I teach it as a leadership trait. But I was doing that and performing that play about the war that we had talked about with our nonprofit when Afghanistan collapsed. And one of my best buddies, who was an Afghan commando, reached out to me, and Marcus, you can appreciate this, was in severe duress, man. I mean, was on the run, was hiding in his uncle's house like Anne Frank, and it was August, this was August 15th at this point when the whole country had collapsed. And he was like, hey, sir, I never worried about dying in this war, but I just never figured I would die alone. And it just floored me. And I had not wanted to get involved in any of that crap after I'd retired, but this was a guy that got shot through the face doing village stability operations with Green Berets because he turned to warn them of an ambush. Like his name was Nizam, just the most amazing young man. And I could not stomach the thought that our government was going to leave, our allies of 20 years that we had fought alongside, and I'm sitting here because of them. And so, that for me was a pivotal moment in deciding, what, we're gonna do something. And we created this group called Task Force Pineapple, and we just started moving them out through relationships.
When y'all came online, I got worried about that. I got the biggest grin on my face. I was, you're reliving every movie we watched. I was like, going back in there, and now you can fight. That's the best thing. I mean, now we're trained.
Well, Tim Kennedy and those guys, they went on the ground, Marcus, but we actually, here was my thought process, and I want to get your thoughts on it. But at the time, there was, I just thought, look, I'm 55 years old, man. I'm not exactly the number one draft pick for hostage rescue, So our perspective was, we know who these guys are. The guys that are on the watch on the perimeter are mostly young Marines, young paratroopers. They don't have a lot of time in Afghanistan. They're not going to be able to separate a commando or an Afghan special forces guy from someone that's just trying to get out that's a taxi driver. I said, but we know who these guys are. We have the bona fides. We can actually move these guys using our cell phones and our relationships. And that's what we did. It was a true kind of digital Dunkirk kind of thing, but it was astounding to see the number of veterans that I hadn't talked to in years. SF guys, SEALs, Jay Redmond, Dan O'Shea. I mean, some really great dudes that came in there, and we just used our relationships and our cell phones and started presenting these guys and their families responsibly to the men and women that were standing watch on those walls and getting them pulled through.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I've been bringing it down lately to some of the guys. Hey, you need to understand, when we went into selection and we got in and we fought in the war, that was our training. That was your entry into being a veteran. Now it's cool. Now this is where the fun starts. And it's almost as if the wars when we were fighting them, when the government was in there, they had the rules. They had a chain around our neck. And when y'all went in there, when y'all expressed in there like that, and y'all dropped down, like, that was gone. And when you see somebody who's been in there, because it's the difference is we spent time there. And like, we learned the neighborhoods. We learned the culture and how things were. It's like living here and moving into the city. And figuring out where the gangs are, what neighborhood you can go into, who's the bad guy, who's the good guy, who the tough guy is, who's got the loud mouth, all that. We learned all of that.
Yeah, and absolutely. And it really, the biggest lesson I learned out of all of that, that I relearned, because I was taught this by some really good NCOs when we were working in Colombia, Peru, Afghanistan. And it's this, and I think it's true not just in SF or the SEALs, but just in life. And it's this, is that you build trust when risk is low and you leverage it when risk is high. And that to me is so absent today in everything. No one builds trust just because the relationship's the asset. And what was so cool to see, Marcus, was like guys that had not seen each other in 10 years, like hadn't seen each other, are up on this Signal chat room. Connecting with Afghan commandos that they hadn't seen in 8 years. And these commandos and special forces are moving through open sewage canals, past Taliban checkpoints where they're getting the hell beat out of them, and they're talking to their partner, an SF guy that they had served with 10 years ago, going, hey, sir, they're beating my wife and kids right now. Are you sure this is what I need to do? And the SF guy, tears rolling down his face in his living room with his kids sitting there going, brother, 10 more feet, man, 10 more feet around that corner. I know it's just terrible. Please trust me. I need you to keep going. Like, what if we all trusted each other like that in the United States, man? Like, what if that kind of trust?
We do.
Yeah, for sure. But
that-
what if neighbors trusted each other that way, the way they used to, and it's just
Like you're supposed
sad.
to? Yeah.
Like you're supposed to. Absolutely.
So y'all were able to get everybody out that you wanted?
No, I wish
Yeah,
I could tell you that we were. I mean, we got somewhere between 750 and 1,000 out. Tim Kennedy and those guys got a lot more. There were a ton of volunteer groups doing this,
Yeah.
and we weren't doing anything that other groups weren't doing. But we got between 750 1,000 out. But I will tell you, just in the Afghan special operations community alone, there were 30,000 commandos, special air wing, and special forces, Koska Tejas and NMRG left behind. 30,000.
Wow.
To be hunted, killed, made to disappear. And for 2 years now, they've been living, like fugitives, like animals.
Yeah.
And these were the most elite forces in that country that Marcus and I trained and developed and others, advised for years. And they were doing 95% of the fighting in that country.
20 years.
And we literally walked away from them.
Well, I'm grateful for everything y'all did and what Tim Kennedy and his group did. I mean, all of it is amazing work, and it's God's work getting these guys out. So thank you for that.
I believe the other thing is that this is what I'm seeing too, and I'm curious what y'all think. But I think that it was kind of a shot across the bow, these veterans groups doing this, that demonstrated that in a lot of the things we're dealing with today, nobody's coming. Nobody's coming. It's just us, and it's I think the veterans represent.
Oh, sure.
Kind of the last moral compass of this country.
Sure.
And
Or we're the only ones that do that.
Mm-hmm. But
Yeah.
I think we're just the only ones that do that.
Yeah.
Like our organization is designed. There's no colleges,
Right.
fraternity. I mean, everything. I've done all that.
well, and even the government, there's
Yeah, all that. But I mean, there's one place you can go where that dude will have your back, or the girl.
yeah.
That's being a veteran.
Absolutely.
It's almost like all of these kind of high profile veterans that are out and use their voice to be able to do stuff like this,
Absolutely.
like what you did. It's like we all need our own formal group because like when shit hits the fan, just to be able to like send a message
Joking
out.
about it the other day. I was like, hey, man, if I ever decide, what if I unionize vets? I was like, we're in everything.
So
I was like, we'd be the most
So
powerful
check this-
thing down here.
So y'all check this out. I'm sure you're tracking what's going on in Maui, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, man. We pray
So-
for them all the
so
time. We love y'all. Y'all stay strong out there.
God bless
I
you
mean,
guys,
stay
man,
strong.
for what you're doing. And
Hawaiians are tough.
Yeah, I'm so
They're gonna make it.
yeah, they are, and they have such a deep, rich connection to the land.
I think
that the rest of us.
the government's getting in the way of that. I'm not gonna say I don't know anything, but knowing that and how that works out, I've lived there for a while. I understand that. I can see that happening.
Well, I will tell you what's happened ever since the Afghanistan collapse. What I've noticed is that these pre-existing networks of primarily veterans came together around Afghanistan. They've come together around Ukraine, and now, I mean, I got a outreach a couple of days ago from a couple of guys who were in Pineapple, but now they live in Hawaii or they have connections to Hawaii, and they said, hey, can we do a Pineapple version, in the signal room of what happened, but for Maui. And so we called it Task Force Lahaina. And
nice.
it is unreal what that group is doing right now. And I can't claim any of it any more than I could with Pineapple. Like these are these amazing veterans
they're
and
great.
connectors that are just jumping in there, and they're leveraging pre-existing relationships to get shit done. And it's just the coolest thing to see.
That is the coolest thing.
It proves
And my father says, I'm sorry, my father always said that growing up. Was like, hey, make a friend over money anytime, anywhere you can, because it'll show back up. And that's what you're talking about right there. When all bets are off and everything, those relationships, that's your currency.
It
Social
proves
capital,
that the
baby.
foundation of these men and women is service. And
100%.
it went from service to our country to service of just our people.
We could put Lahaina back together in 6 months with the amount of money we ship everywhere else. We all know that.
Oh, man.
Well, I mean, we know that. I thought it burnt because they're not showing everything either, too. That was another thing I kind of got frustrated with.
Yeah, that's another thing, and I think that's the thing is that we need some help from the media. And I think
you guys in the media need to
other-
get your heads out of your asses, man, and start doing some real work around here, man. Things are falling apart.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I mean It's like the government will spend all of the money, but the veterans are the ones who are actually serving the people. So
Yeah, they're a moral compass. I really believe that. Like the veterans never lose sight of true north. And you know who else I believe, and I've seen this with our play as we travel the country, is our military families and our families of the fallen. You know, our families of the fallen,
Gold Stars,
not just Gold Star, but White Star families that have lost members to suicide. You know, they are so active in taking care of everybody else. Mm-hmm. It's astounding. Like they've lost so much.
Yeah.
And yet,
I guess that's a difference too, right?
Taking care of everybody.
When one of ours goes down, the families turn inward to try to help everybody else out. And out here, it's kind of like when someone died, they just turn away. They're like, hey, I don't want any of that.
Yep.
So tell us about this.
It's a true national treasure.
Tell us about the play.
Oops, say that again.
Tell us about the play that you're doing.
So I started working on this play 6 years ago. I had a really, really bad transition from the military. I lost the damn
I think it's part of it, man.
It was bad.
Oh.
You know, within 18 months, I was standing in my closet holding a pistol, and had a few things not happen that day, I wouldn't have come out, but I did. And over time, I got connected to an ex-NFL guy named Bo that was a storyteller, professional storyteller, actor, playwright, and he trained me in how to use storytelling to heal myself, and then how to bridge that civil military gap by telling stories about my guys and their service and repurposing their struggles for civilian lessons. And it changed my life. It saved my life.
Go experience the epitome of elegance with the Hatch Restore 2, the key to refining your self-care through impeccable sleep. My latte-covered Hatch Restore 2 is a chic addition to my nightstand, and not only has it enhanced my sleep, but I've also been getting some pretty good compliments on it lately too. As your bedside sleep guru, it seamlessly blends a sound machine, a soothing light, a suave design, and a reliable alarm clock for all those refined mornings. And remember, profound sleep is a skill to be mastered. It's not a coincidence. So don't miss out on this exclusive offer from Hatch. Go get $20 off your Hatch Restore 2 and enjoy free shipping at hatch.co/TNQ. Sleep deeply and wake up gently with the Restore 2. Visit hatch.co/TNQ to unlock this very special deal. That's hatch.co.
And so my wife and I started a nonprofit called The Hero's Journey. And one of the things that Bo talked me into doing was writing a play about the war with an all veteran cast and a military family members in the cast. And it was around one Green Beret sergeant named Danny Patton, who's based on 3 teen daddies that I lost in the war. He's one composite character, and he's mortally wounded in the first scene, and he's trying to get to Valhalla, but he's stuck between his fire base and his living room, and he can't let go. So his buddies who've been killed in combat come down, and it's a wonderful life with body armor. They take him back through his life, and
that's awesome. I can see that.
Selection. Yeah, he goes through selection. He goes to the Q course, then 9/11, and then he gets married, has his kid, and then deployment after deployment as things start to kind of come off the rails, and the audience just goes for that ride, and they follow Danny through this journey until he figures out what he's holding on to, and he lets go and he ascends. And so that I just had that play in me. I felt like I needed to tell a story like that. It's all based on true stories, not just mine, but other guys that I served with, including SEALs. And it's this just beautifully woven story. And then to complete my midlife crisis, I decided to learn how to act at age 50 and play Danny. And so and then Gary Sinise saw it right after the collapse. It's on Amazon Prime as a low budget movie. We had shelved the play. He saw it and he said, Scott, we need this on tour right now because people are hurting. So we put it back on tour, and we're currently touring the country right now. It's called Last Out, Elegy of a Green Beret.
Where how are you booking? Because we've done something similar. We did something, not a play.
It's the best way to see the country.
But we did something called Patriot Tour, where we toured the country, and we had a panel of speakers.
That was a blast.
We had so much fun. But literally, it started off with me booking venues. So is that how y'all do it? Is it very...
So we started in 2019 with our little nonprofit, The Hero's Journey, and we did it just like that. We asked people, hey, would you want to host us in this town? We put 28,000 miles on a U-Haul van.
Nice.
We
Oh,
went to
wow.
Brandon, Mississippi. We went to Vermilion, South Dakota. We went to Santa Barbara, New York. And so the first year of touring was basically, you want us there, we're there. We performed it in cafeterias. We performed it in high school gymnasiums, wherever. We didn't care. And it was kind of like Shakespeare in the Park, but with veterans. And then when Gary saw it, he helped us level it up, and we actually got a tour manager. And so we've been on tour. It's kind of more of a formal traveling, not formal, but all of our team members are either veterans or family members as well. But it's a bit more organized, I would say, like our tour stops and things like that. It's a bit more organized.
It grows. That's how it starts.
It grows.
Yeah, it grows.
What size venues are you booking?
Anywhere from, we did Steppenwolf in Chicago is like 600 people. And then we've done, usually it's between 300 and 350. But here's the cool part. We roll into town on a Thursday. We do a Serving Heroes event for first responders and veterans with Gary, and we serve local first responders and veterans. Then we perform the play Friday night, Saturday afternoon, Saturday night. We do a storytelling workshop for local veterans and first responders on Saturday morning. And then we do talkbacks after every show where we sit with the audience, the cast does, and we talk about combat. We talk about war. We talk about loss. And the civilians are right there with us in this conversation. And that is the coolest thing, is seeing these old school conversations of shared perspective with Democrats, Republicans, masked, no mask, veterans, civilians. Everybody's just talking. And veterans and family members are leading the conversation. And I just sit there with a big grin on my old face and just smile at it, because it's just, it's for me, it's by far the most fulfilling thing I've ever done.
How are you selling tickets?
Well, so we sell tickets through, the box office, and I'll send you guys some of our, if you go to lastoutplay.com, you can see all the stuff we do, lots of video products and stuff. But we sell tickets through the box office. We sell them on Gary's website, but it's free for veterans, free for military families, free for first responders. And then, all proceeds go to Gary's foundation. And I have to say, Gary Sinise his foundation has funded this entire tour.
I feel like he's kind of earned our generation's Bob Hope. You know what I mean?
He is our Bob Hope.
He is. Have we designated him that yet, though?
Well, I've told him that, and
No, I know we tell him that, but I mean, have we got together and actually done that though, and made it official?
I think that's a good idea, man. I think
he's earned it. I don't know. We might want to get on that.
I would say, I don't think I'm speaking out of turn when I say that he is our generation.
No, absolutely. I'm just curious as to if we've identified that yet. I think we should. We all say it. Everybody I run into says that. That's where I got that.
So
as soon as you drop that dude's name, everyone goes straight. He's like, man, he's our Bob Hope.
Yeah, we love Gary Sinise. He does so much for the community.
Yeah.
And
he thinks the world of you guys.
He's just been firing me up since Forrest Gump.
He's the one that introduced us.
Yeah, I remember that. So that's awesome that he's funding this, because that was our hardest part of Patriot Tour, and why we don't do it anymore is we were self-funding the whole tour. And that's hard.
And it cuts deep, doesn't it?
It cuts deep, especially if
you gotta love it. You gotta love doing that job, man. I mean,
well, and we really did love it, and it was really hard for us to charge prices for veterans and stuff, and we did give veteran discounts and first responder discounts, but we had to be able to make the money just to be able to get out there and do it.
Yeah.
Just cut even.
A lot of people don't understand is you have to sustain the message.
Right.
You have, there has to be, you can't just, goodwill's great.
Yeah.
How do we got to get y'all to the play at some point. Is it ends in December.
Are you going to be in Texas at all?
Where are y'all closing at?
We're going to close in Tampa, where I'm from, in December.
Hey, it's not hard to get me to Tampa. It's not hard at all to get us to Tampa. We like that place a lot.
I'll get y'all the info. I would love for you to come see it in Tampa. And then there's a big push underway right now to bring it to Texas in 2024.
Right on.
Yeah.
That was the best part about traveling the country like that and seeing those old theaters. I grew up kind of in the theater realm. I loved that whole genre and how that works.
Really?
Yeah, we did theater size of usually around 1,000 to 2,000, and we were doing we were doing the really old
school.
school
the old ones,
theaters.
hand carved on the inside, still had the buckets and everything. I mean,
like historic
landmarks.
Theaters. It was really cool. We loved it, but it just cut too deep into the pocketbook.
Yeah, the history in there too, because those old school ones, man, they'll write on the walls, and the posters in there from all the old plays and who had been there.
That's the best. And we're performing in, like, for example, in the old Franklin Theater in Tennessee this weekend.
Oh, fun.
But like the cool thing is, we're doing it on the anniversary of the Abbey Gate attack. And what we do before every performance, Cheryl, is we have this one prop called the Wall of Honor, and it's a multi-shelf system. And Danny, my character, and his son built this Wall of Honor. It was based on a shelf system that my boys and I had. But on it are just these little trinkets and drawings and totems that started with the cast members, because they're all veterans from their kids. Mm-hmm. But as we traveled around the country, one Gold Star mom would come up and say, "Hey, would it be okay if I put my son's dog tags on the wall?" Aww. And then another Marine from Vietnam would say, "Hey, I've got my buddy's ring or his picture. Can I put it on the wall?" And so it became like this living mausoleum, to service and sacrifice.
Those are my favorite places.
What we do before every show is we go up on the stage, and the families of the fallen from that town come up on the stage, and they tell us about their loved one. They tell us the story of their loved one.
That's brilliant. Now, we didn't do that.
Yeah, that's really cool.
That's a good idea.
And then they give us a totem of them. It might be a dog tag or a picture, and then we put it on the wall, and it travels with us everywhere we go. Yeah. Then during the play, actors will pick up one of the totems and hold it or whatever. It's such a connection to the community, and it has been really special to see all these amazing
people. We talked to some old boy the other day. He goes around and videos, interviews the World War II guys. We just lost the last Easy Company guy.
Mm-hmm. Really?
He just passed. Bill, I think it was Bill Garnier. I don't want to say it, but someone told me he was the last one, or the last one passed away, man. So respect to Easy Company, man. Yeah, how about that? Man.
Yeah,
freaking
solid bunch of dudes.
I don't even know how many World War II guys we got left.
It's not that many.
Can't be that many.
Gary does a great job of really honoring those guys in the honor flights. But you know what
those are great. Those are great.
Yeah, for sure. And as we travel the country right now, I have to say, one, mad respect to our Vietnam veterans and our Korean War veterans. I mean, I've always had mad respect for them.
Oh, dude, those guys.
After the way Afghanistan ended.
Oh, dude, ours was terrible. Our favorite movie sucked, man. The ending was terrible. How about that? Yeah, right?
Yeah. The way they have stood up for us now, I can't tell you how many veterans called me when Afghanistan collapsed. They were like, "Hey, brother, I know what you're going through. Just keep your head up. It'll be." And the way that these guys stepped up for us, Marcus, when they had been treated so poorly, because they didn't want us to be treated like that. I can't say enough about the Vietnam generation, man. Those guys are amazing.
We got to do something for them.
My favorite thing that the Vietnam generation guys do for the current military veterans is the Patriot Guard. I love
the
Patriot Guard.
They're their own gang. How about them freaking guys? Aren't they awesome?
I think that is so awesome.
I mean, the Vietnam guys got it worse, but when they came back, what they are now, what it molded them into, I mean, like, they're protector. Like, you just,
And Marcus and I happened to be in D.C. one year. It was Memorial Day weekend, and we didn't know that this was going on, but we happened to be there when all of the bikes drove in or rode in, whatever you say.
Rolling Thunder.
Rolling Thunder to get to the Vietnam Wall. And that was,
I love them guys so much, man. They all have the long hair with the amber colored Ray-Ban. Dude.
That made me cry.
That's pure Americana. Them freaking Vietnam guys are pure Americana, man.
And to be treated like they were.
Oh, I know.
Oh, I see. Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
It's awful. But seeing all those guys, if you're ever in D.C. during Memorial Day weekend, watch out for the guys that come in and go straight to the Vietnam Wall. It is the coolest thing to witness.
I got to see it when I was a young man, and I tell you what, I'll never forget it.
Yeah, I'll never forget it.
I love being a veteran now. When we're in, he and I would argue. I mean, he was an officer, so I wouldn't argue. But I mean, like, it goes back and forth.
I think you would.
I think you would.
I think you would.
No, I would have. Yeah, I would have. But when you get out, all that stuff kind of melt back together. It's really cool, man.
It really is. I've been so it's just been so cool, Marcus, to travel the country and meet all these veterans and military families and first responders, by the way. on the road, and the way they come out, and the best thing is when we do the play, and after the play they come up and they're like, it doesn't matter if they were Marine, Navy, Air Force, Army, it doesn't matter, and they're like, hey, thanks for telling my story up there, man. They literally locate themselves in it, and it's so. We got to get you guys to the show. I really think.
Tell me the name of it again. I want to look up. I want to actually
it's
say
called
this.
It's called Last Out: Elegy of a Green Beret. But if you go to lastoutplay.com, there's like a ton of stuff. There's a documentary on it.
We'll post your schedule on the website.
Yeah.
Oh, great! Thanks.
So another problem, and I keep bringing up Patriotor only because I know that's how I compare it to. But how do you get the word out?
I think we should really talk sometime because we had very similar challenges. Gary's helped a lot with it. Like, he goes on media and talks about the show. He came to San Diego to see it. You talk about nervous.
Yeah.
With my amateur acting butt up there, and I got Lieutenant Dan sitting in the friggin'
Oh, yeah, right? That's what I'm saying, man. When you get a pro in there, dude.
But he was so gracious. But he puts the word out a lot, and I will tell you, and this is my message to any veteran out there, any military family member. You know what we did? We just kept telling the story. Yeah. We would tell it from every stage. We would look for opportunities to get on the news and talk about it. One of the things I think we have to do as veterans is we have to unleash our storytelling power. We have to tell our story, your story, whatever it is.
That's in our freaking culture. It's in our DNA. I don't know why we don't do that. It's like when you get back, everybody clams up. You hear. Yeah, I don't know where that comes from. Because the old warriors, they told their stories around the campfire. That's how you get new warriors. Mm-hmm. And I know that we talk to each other. I get that. I've had people say, he never told me any stories. He never talked about it. I was like, he just didn't talk to you about it. Trust me, he's got somebody. But the opening up to the civilian part is like they want to hear that, and it helps
and
too.
They need to hear it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, they need to hear it. And it does have. Just think God put you out there to get that story so you can come back and tell that person, regardless if you think this is important or not, it is. It helps them. Just to hear you.
Your story and the story of your teammates, man. Has changed lives. It's saved lives. Mm-hmm. It has created a macro level understanding of service and sacrifice and brotherhood. Mm-hmm. That came from storytelling, man, and you having the courage to tell it. Yeah. And I think, if anything, it serves as an example to the rest of us. Is like the country more than ever needs the stories of our veterans and military family members.
Yeah.
They need them because that shows what right looks like. And if we don't do it, we're cheating the country, in my opinion.
Well, and it's much better taking your kids to see that than to go see some half-naked person performing on a stage that's cussing up and down. So
you know what? They parents will ask me, "Hey, is this show kid friendly?" Mm-hmm. And I'll say, "We say the F word over 200 times, but here's the thing: do your kids play Fortnite?"
Yeah.
And they'll say yes.
Yeah.
And I'll say, then the show is just fine.
Yeah. Have they been to a Taylor Swift concert or anything like that?
Well, the video game Fortnite, you kill somebody and then you do a cool dance on their body.
Yeah.
And you got 4-year-olds playing.
Oh, they can talk smack on there too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So I pulled up the schedule.
No one can talk more smack than a 10-year-old Fortnite player.
Very true.
They're brilliant.
So this weekend, you're going to be in Franklin, Tennessee at the Franklin Theater.
Yeah.
And September 22nd, 23rd, you're going to be in Milwaukee.
Yep.
I loved Milwaukee.
Yeah, I was going to. That's a little hidden gem up there. Yeah.
It is.
What is it about that place, man?
We had a great show.
Time. Great show, great people. I never heard anything about Milwaukee. You know what I mean?
Is that where we got stuck, though?
No, we did get stuck there. But that's where we...
Yeah, but it was okay, though.
No, when you were in the lobby, the doors hadn't opened yet, but we were in the lobby doing something. Goggins was stretching. I will never forget this. It's like...
You'll never forget Goggins stretching?
No.
I'll never forget that either.
You were walking around and this little kid had his hands trying to peek into the windows from the outside. And he had a little, like one of our t-shirts or something, and you put your hands up on his, on the window, and someone took a picture of it, and it was the cool thing.
Oh, that's so cool.
And we ended up bringing that kid in and gave him tickets to go backstage to hang out with all the guys.
Yeah.
But I thought that was such a cool moment that your hands up against the kids. Do you remember that?
I do remember that too.
Yeah, I remember that. Hunter was a kid.
Awesome.
Hunter
I remember
was
that
little.
theater too.
Yeah, but Milwaukee was a really neat town. I had never been there before.
Such cool people.
Yeah.
Very cool people.
Such cool people. Yeah,
Very
we're going to be in the
patriotic.
Skylight Theater there. It's just it's a wonderful place.
Reliable. That's what they say about the people up there in that belt. They're
Yeah.
reliable.
Yeah.
And then October 20th and 21st, you're in Topeka, Kansas.
Yep.
At the Topeka Performing Arts Center. So if you're listening and you're in one of those towns,
Yes, sir. Are you still
go
writing?
watch.
I mean, we got
am.
guys.
Yeah, I wrote.
Okay, cool.
I wrote on the Pineapple Express side. I wrote a book called Operation Pineapple Express, and I hope people will read that because it tells the story of what happened in the Afghanistan collapse. I think in a way that hasn't been told through the eyes.
Oh, they'll
of
read it.
Afghanistan.
Yeah, they'll read it. Absolutely, especially since you went back in and they've been able to see it. Remember back in the day, man, most of our people didn't have access to our information. If it was down at the bottom part of the ticker. So if you got somebody who'd actually been in there and said, hey, I mean, our favorite movies when we were growing up were that stuff. The real world, the real life kind of guys getting in there and doing,
Yeah. But I'm still writing. Yeah, I'm still writing, and nonfiction and fiction, and mostly though I'm speaking from the stage and doing this play. This play it has my heart. And one thing too, I'll just say our final performance is not part of the Gary Sinise Foundation. We're doing it. That's for our nonprofit to just bring the play home. Is December 6 and 7 in Tampa.
Okay.
That'll be our final performance.
Where is it at in Tampa?
At the New Tampa Theater, and we'll have on that same link at lastoutplay.com. We'll have that one up pretty soon.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll try to make that. That would be
I hope you do. And
Yeah.
I'll send you the info on it separately, and we'd love to have you guys as our guests and participate in the talk back and meet the cast. It's a really, and to be up on the stage with us when we honor those families of the fallen, it's a really special moment.
Yeah, that's a good one, man. That you do that, because that's a show in itself in every town. It's the fact that you had to come to town to bring them on stage to show everybody is its own show.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's squared away, bro. I never even thought about that. Yeah,
That's really
well.
cool.
We didn't either. You know who thought of it was a Gold Star mom named Jenny, whose Marine son Jason died in Iraq, was killed in Iraq, and we were performing in Brandon, Mississippi, at the high school where he went to school. And his mom sent me a Facebook Messenger and said, "Would it be okay if I brought Jason's dog tag?" And I was like, "Absolutely." So we brought her up on the stage because I wanted her to know the show hits hard. And we did this little thing, and it turned into, you know how it is when you're doing that. You find the real nuggets you find in the execution, right? And that's how
Really
that happened.
cool.
I wish I could claim it, but I can't.
Hey man, you got some people out there, especially that can tell some stories. That's when I growing up. I've heard you say that a few times now, and it's a thing. And I had an uncle, when I would come home, if I saw his truck in the driveway, I just want to sit down and listen to him talk.
Absolutely.
I didn't care what he was saying. And with those
man.
fans, some of those, you find some of them gems in those audiences, I bet, man, you just want to hear him talk for hours.
My grandpa loved to talk, and he loved Marcus because Marcus would listen to it.
Freaking listen to that dude talk all
Nobody
day.
else would listen to it.
Absolutely.
I learned more from that elder than I did anywhere. Just listening.
Yeah, storytelling allows us to kind of listen autobiographically. We locate ourselves in the story, and we're actually going for the ride as if we lived it ourselves. And that's why, like the old timers, they could tell a story and you actually felt like you lived it with them.
Yeah.
My papa could be up in the Appalachians and tell stories about hunting bears and running moonshine, and you
My
honestly
papa,
felt like you did it with him.
Papaws tell the best stories. If you're lucky enough to have one that is labeled Papa, congratulations. Because them suckers could tell some stories, man. They wear that baseball cap, got that white hair, it just kind of sits up on top of their head, it's all perfect like.
That's so funny. Is there anything else you want to plug?
No. Well, look, if anything that I talked about today on the nonprofit side and the work, scottmann.com, we've got all of our stuff up there, our nonprofit work, the work we're doing for Afghan allies, the play. Would love for folks to connect there. And I'm thrilled to be connected to you guys. And, y'all have, you all really in my assessment, you opened the door and you showed the rest of the veteran community what right looked like in terms of leadership at home, the courage to tell your story, the courage to, to even when it's hard, is to repurpose your struggle in the service of others. And you guys have been so generous with your scars, and you keep doing it. And I just think you gave permission to a lot of veterans to get out there and lead at home. And I'm one of them. So,
Thank you.
I'm just honored to be with you guys, and I can't wait to meet you in person, hug your neck, and hopefully we can get you to the play. But just keep doing what you're doing, because we need it.
Thank you. Well, so are you on Instagram or any social medias where people can find you?
Yeah. I am. It's really Scott Mann's my handle on all of it, or Scott Mann author.
Okay.
And again, scottmann.com, 2 T's, 2 N's is the easiest place to find just my whole body of work.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing your story with us and coming on.
Appreciate it, you guys. See you later.
All right. Bye.
Appreciate Scott for coming down. And just a reminder, if you do have any guest recommendations, please send them our way. You can go comment somebody on YouTube, and we'll go take a look, and we would love to see who you've got. So with that being said, thank you for listening in. We'll see you next week.
This is the Team Never Quit podcast. So buckle up, Buttercup.